Hi, I'm Judy Chicago, and I want to invite you on a tour of our exhibition, Confined, which is at the Through the Flower Art Space in Belen, New Mexico. In October of 2021, the Nevada Museum of Art, which acquired my fireworks archive, is doing an exhibition from the archive. Part of it will be devoted to my work during the pandemic. In 2020, when the pandemic started, I had this idea that I would do a series of smoke pieces in the landscape of New Mexico, like I had done in the late 1960s and 1970s in California, where I could just go out into the landscape with a group of friends, bring smoke pieces, fireworks, and ignite them wherever I wanted, on the beaches, in national forests, in parks. But that was a long time ago, and California doesn't allow that kind of unregulated activity. But I thought maybe New Mexico might. However, with the pandemic, even public space in New Mexico was shut down. And so I decided to do a series of smoke sculptures in our backyards, aided by my husband, photographer Donald Woodman, and our photo assistant, Apollo Gomez, and our studio manager, Megan Schultz, who got so interested in my smoke pieces that she trained as a pyrotechnician so she could keep doing them. Here in the art space are a series of prints called Garden Smokes, which I will discuss in a few minutes. In the meantime, I also did a series of porcelains called Life on Pause. This is a small study for that series, which I was involved with until the end of 2020. Although the pandemic started earlier in other parts of the United States, by March 2020, it had reached New Mexico, and our state shut down. I noticed that people were wearing very black, plain masks, which from my point of view was kind of depressing. It was depressing enough being shut down. I thought perhaps I could design a more appealing mask and also raise some money for Through the Flower. So I designed this mask, which sold out. And then in the fall of 2020, I designed a fall version, of which there are still a few. The last mask I'm going to design will be for the spring, because even though we're close to getting a vaccine, it'll be a while before the interruption of our lives will end. On the mask drawings is a handwritten narrative that I did to discuss something about my responses to COVID and the masks, and also the whole Confined series that is on display at Through the Flower Art Space. When I first started working with colored smokes at the end of the 1960s and early 1970s, my smoke pieces could be seen as a gesture of liberation, marking the moment that I decided to begin to work in fireworks and to unleash the color systems that I had confined in minimalist forms into the air shortly before I made a radical change in my art making practice and set out to create feminist art practice and also start the first feminist art education programs. In contrast to those gestures of liberation, In the Confined series, I wanted to accomplish the exact opposite. I wanted to contain the smoke, to keep it within boundaries, borders, in the same way that we have been kept within boundaries and borders inside our houses, being asked not to travel because of COVID. As a result, I picked particular sites in our gardens to do the smoke pieces. One thing also that was very different about this series than my early pieces, when I had no real photographers to work with, is that my husband, Donald Woodman, is not only an incredible photographer, but he is also skilled at turning digital images into perfect form when he prints them. And so on every level, this series of Confined smokes is different from my earlier atmospheres. Not only were the smokes contained within, for example, the trellis. I did an orange atmosphere early in the 60s in a park where the smoke was allowed to billow freely. Here, I ignited the smoke inside the trellis, and the sense of containment is extended by the series of words that move around the image. In each case, in each image, the words are the same, but those words that are highlighted in color change. So for example, the first one is confined. This one is enclosed and cooped up. In this image, which is titled Hindered by the Light, my intention was to allow the light to both illuminate and stop the smoke. In other words, at this point, the smoke was becoming thinner, and so it was going to disappear very soon, except right at this moment, the sun shone through the smoke and made these incredible light beams, and yet the smoke could not go very far. In this image, called Entrapped by the Leaves, I wanted the pink smoke actually to come up through the leaves of this flowering plant. But quite by accident, the light caught the smoke and created this halo effect around the flowering plant that I really love. Still, the flowering plant is enclosed or entrapped by the smoke. The different garden smoke images have different relationships to the words that constrain, entrap, or hold them. If the one I talked about the light, being hindered by the light, if the smoke was both hindered and illuminated. Here, the title is Curtailed by a Fence. Generally, smoke mixes, the colors mix. It's like mixing paint in the air. But because this piece was up against the fence, the most interesting thing happened, which was that each color retained its own tone, and they did not mix until they got very high up. And I really like this one a lot because you can see how the fence is curtailing the smoke from doing what it would normally do, which is mix and merge. Instead, the fence is really hampering the natural progression of the smoke. One of the things about my smoke sculptures that's very different from other land art is that the smoke merges with the wind, the light, the space. And that is very different from a lot of land art, which involves bulldozing, dominating, changing forever the surface of the earth. One could say that my smoke sculptures are a challenge to the patriarchal paradigm of domination. My smoke sculptures come out of an awe of the natural environment and a desire to help people see the incredible beauty of the world in which we live, in order to help us move as a people all over the world to a different relationship between the planet and other creatures, one in which we care for them as opposed to destroy them. Where do I want to place the smoke? There. Whoa. That is seriously beautiful. Imagine making one of my smoke sculptures with a phone. Whoa. Now it's like being inside the smoke. To be immersed in beauty and color and light. I invite you to make an appointment and come and visit our space, because art at all times can be inspiring and empowering, and right now it can be comforting as well.